My name is Brad Linden, and I am the worship director at New Life Church.
Right now I'm actually doing freelance consulting, editing, and writing. I've spent the greater part of my career as a professional journalist at the Detroit News.
My name is Bob Reichman, and I'm a national account manager for a company called Chamberlain Marketing Group.
My name is Kristen Lenz. I am a freelance writer, and I am self-employed, but I do some work for Gleaner's Food Bank.
I'm Mike Lopez, and I'm a partner and a financial advisor at Plant Moran Financial Advisors.
It's Evan Burton here in Brooklyn, New York. What I do is to create social media advertising.
This is Michelle DeMuzio, and I am a graphic designer at a company called VaynerMedia in New York City.
I am in charge of the music side of our church service, and so I help by leading the music that's a part of our service.
Well, mostly my job is sales. It's new business development, going out and seeking new clients, new customers, and then also trying to grow business within the existing accounts.
There's lots of different writing involved, and some of it's my choice. So for Gleaners, I get assignments. They have a Harvest magazine that they publish a few times a year, and they give me stories to write. And my other writing is all on my own, so it's whatever moves me. So I write short stories, essays for literary journals, and my long-term goal is to publish my novels.
As a graphic designer, I'm in charge of creating images and illustrations using Photoshop, Illustrator, design software for various brands that VaynerMedia represents.
I write, edit, and produce daily content across platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Vine, you name it, I do it. So, first of all, I'm in constant communication with my coworkers and colleagues over email. And so I'm writing and reading emails all day long.
I probably average between 350 and 400 emails a day. Quite a bit of reading there.
The types of reading that I do day to day for my job are reading emails from account people that talk to clients, so kind of getting an idea of what the client is asking for, and also reading creative briefs written by the copywriters who come up with the concepts that then I create the images for.
There's like no kind of reading that I don't do at my job, almost. It requires me to grasp information quickly and then make immediate use of it. So that information could come from a blog post, or it could come from a news website, or it could come from a legal document. It could really come from anywhere. And so I'm reading lots of things all the time, all day.
Well, there's all types of reading. So for Gleaners, before I got those assignments, I read past issues of their Harvest magazine to understand what their style of writing was. I also read all over their website to understand what their organization does. And then for my other writing, I read a lot all the time just because I enjoy it, but I also read with a writer's eye just to learn and study and figure out how authors are accomplishing it.
Some of the best use, I think, of my English skills is the times that I'm studying the Bible, because you know, it's a book that has a lot of really simple ideas to it, but also some really complicated ideas. And sometimes the stories and the messages can be really hard to understand. And since I'm leading the music, I read a lot of lyrics for songs that we do.
Lots of reading with different type of marketing plans and proposals. Often customers will have an advertising or a marketing plan that they'd like us to be a part of.
I really have different types of reading that I do. The first is really technical oriented reading that relates to updates and analysis on economic reports and developments, as well as changes to the tax law, both estate and income tax law. In addition, I read updates on developments in the economy and in the political scene around the world, and that's really more of a general nature, whether it be reading something like the Wall Street Journal. And really the third is just staying up on current events, especially local events, as well as national events, so that you're aware of what's going on in the world around you, so you're able to help to relate to people in a conversational manner and be abreast of current events. And
I read 2 or 3 newspapers every day. I probably write less today than I did 5 or 10 years ago because I do more editing than I do writing. It depends on what's going on in the world news-wise, or if I'm working for a specific client. But in an 8-hour day, if that was a typical day, I'd probably spend at least 4 or 5 hours of that doing reading and or writing. And then if I'm editing, I'm probably going to spend 4 or 5 hours editing as well.
I meet with a lot of different people and share about the work I do at the church, and I do some fundraising and stuff through that. And so, for instance, this is something I made. It's a card that explains some of the work I'm doing, so that I can give it to someone and they can get a taste for our church and the work I'm doing and how they can help. And so this is all stuff that I wrote.
The writing is very different. Some of it's nonfiction, so the Gleaners stuff is telling people's stories, and it's informational as well. So informing people about what Gleaners does, about hunger in our communities, and also highlighting people's stories, success stories. The other type of writing is very creative, so it's fiction, and it's whatever I'm interested in and passionate about that I bring to it.
Creative writing, and so I come up with short stories for social media, and I also do persuasive writing, meaning that when I come up with an idea, I either have to convince one of my colleagues or one of my team members that it's a good idea, or I have to convince the client that it is a good idea to run with this concept that I've come up with.
I'm writing all day. It could be a very short response to a question. It could be a response to an RFP for a project that could be 20 to 150 pages, depending on the complexity.
I have different types of writing that I would do. Some would be more formal, where I'm actually drafting a formal letter to another professional. The next more common type of writing that I would be doing is drafting emails to really, as clients send emails with questions, sending responses to those emails. And those tend to be a little bit more informal, but it's still very important to make sure that you're using proper English and proper grammar.
Emails. Emails to my coworkers, emails explaining my design work.
I'm constantly on email, and so I'm communicating one-to-one or in groups on email. Most important tasks are summarizing, right? Finding the main point of something quickly, and then making immediate use of it. I would say skimming for important information so that you can actually save time reading. It's good to read thoroughly, but also I think it's important to know how to pick out from a passage the information that's going to be of use to you. Finally, I would say determining what is not important, like what it is that you should really value from something you read, and then what it is that you can let go of. I
think you can, if you just take everything right at its surface value, like this is what the word on the page says, that's what it means, done. I think you miss some of the beauty of what things you read say. I think a lot of the beauty and the meaning comes from being able to read closely and read between the lines, as sometimes people would say.
The most important thing is to understand and comprehend what is being asked of you in a creative brief.
So research, pulling all that information together, and then just starting to write. You have to figure out a way to organize it, and every project is different. If it's really small or if it's really large, the novels take a lot of organization and a lot of notes that I need to sift through and keep track of.
Being able to take very technical topics and then communicate them to clients in a manner that they understand.
Number one, of course, are a strong sense of spelling and grammar.
I think being concise, clear, and spelling all your words correctly are the most important skills that I use all the time and that everyone should use.
Good command of the English language is paramount. You have to also take into consideration who your audience is.
You have to be able to adapt both your communication style as well as your reading styles to whatever is the task at hand.
You know, the way I represent myself out there is through the written word, and it's just very important to be buttoned up.
And I think this is important if you're writing a term paper, or if you're writing a news story, or if you're writing, your thesis. Once you have it written, you should read it out loud, and people kind of chuckle at that, but your ear hears things differently than your head does. And I've been in newsrooms where I've sat down and read my stories and had people just kind of look at me funny. But when you read things out loud, you catch mistakes.
Rough draft, second draft, third draft, fourth draft, however many it takes. But whatever it takes to get to that clear idea before you share it with someone else, do that. Clarity of thought is the most important writing skill.
I think it's really important to be able to be clear, to really say exactly what you mean and say it in a way that it doesn't waste any time. Writing isn't good just because it's long, but it's good if it's easy to understand and if it's to the point.
But you don't want to go on and on and on.
Never say in 5 words what you can say in 3. And on that note, I'm finished answering this question.
One of the things that I think it's very important to really take the mastery of the English language very seriously, because I think it's frankly becoming a little bit of a lost art. And I think getting that grounding in English grammar is very critical in being able to effectively communicate, especially the written communication.
Keep your focus on English and communication, and that's not to belittle any other subject or everything's important, but my English grammar skills, the writing skills, the speaking skills, those things I use every day, all day, and are very important. So,
no matter what you're doing in your English class, reading a novel, reading a text or a play or a poem, is to just find something in whatever you're reading that you enjoy or relate to. I just think it makes it so much more fun.
It's important that you read lots of different types of things. So if you're not really into biographies, you should pick one and read. Find somebody who's interesting and do it. Again, if you're not really into poetry, ask people what they like and read something that's different.
I would say read and write all the time, but I cannot encourage you enough to really explore that part of yourself and build that out, because it is going to help you in life.